Hello and welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Today's video is a tabletop review and comparison of the Marcolmar Cetme L that just came out and the Hill & Mac variant of the Cetme L as well. Now both of these are US made firearms on Cetme L parts kits, so they are not original semi-automatic builds done by two pretty small but reputable companies. Anyway, the idea of this will be to look at them side by side and to see which one did a better job of recreating as close as they could the original Cetme L rifle. Anyway, if that sounds interesting to you, please stick around. That's coming up now. Okay, so jumping into this, I've already done an extensive historical overview on this in the video I uploaded last week on the M16A2 versus the Cetme L. But just to recap briefly, this was Spain's service rifle in the better part of the 1990s, being replaced in 1999 by the German G36. Now, this was plagued with issues in the Spanish military, a lot of double feeding, a lot of failures to extract. It did use a fluted chamber, and it is a roller delayed blowback, with the 5.56 being its cartridge. So again, there were some service reliability issues. Spain wanted to have their own rifle, which was sort of a scaled down redesign of the Cetme Model C. But of course, it just did not work out as well and would later be replaced. So about 3 or 4 years ago, Hill & Mac did a small run at these Cetme Ls, and they would only make about 100 of them. And they retailed brand new for about $1,500, and you could get these on the used market for between $1,500 and $2,000 until the Marcolmar variation that just came out, and I'm now seeing these used Cetme Ls for kind of like from the Hill & Mac from about maybe $1,000 to $1,200 recently is what they've been selling for. Now the new Marcolmar Cetme Ls, they bought up a huge supply of parts kits, and they're set up on machinery to make their own stamped receivers, and they have all their programmed welding and all of that sort of stuff going on, which they've got videos of showing how they're doing that. And they are putting these out in pretty large quantity. Now the Hill & Mac, like I said, a very small run of about 100, and this is one of them. The variation that they made was just in the standard military configuration with the standard stock and the green color, and that was basically it. The originals did not have any type of optic rail, which was one of the main reasons they would go to a sort of a more modernized G36. What Marcolmar has done, because they have so many of the parts kits, is they're coming out with different color schemes. So this is the traditional green. They have it in black, flat dark earth, gray. They have it with the rail, without the rail, and when you order one from them, you can sort of set up or tell them what configuration you want it in. And these are retailing at about $1,400. I think the MSRP is $1,500. So between $1,400 and $1,500 respectively. Now these two variations on the table came about in the same way. They're basically built on parts kits by two different companies, and they both went about it in a little bit of a different fashion. So if you're interested in getting a Cetme L, these are sort of your options available to you. There are some transferable Cetme Ls on the market, but of course those are transferable machine guns, which are going to cost you up in the tens of thousands of dollars. So this is really the best that we can get as sort of a reasonably priced military Cetme L. Now keep in mind, these did have, like I said, in service, they did have some reliability issues. This I recently sent over to Small Arms Solution, Chris Bartocci, and he did a video on this, and he did have some feeding issues on this. Now when it warms up into the spring, I will do a shooting comparison of these two, but for right now it's just a detailed tabletop comparison. So the market for one of these is not like something to compete with a new manufactured AR-15 or the new high-speed rifles coming out from everybody. This is purely geared towards the market of a military collector or an enthusiast, or somebody who just likes the military history of a Cetme Model L and wants to put it in their collection or have something fun and different to take to the range. So don't expect, at that price point, I know all the comments are going to come along, why would I pay $1,500 for that when I could get an AR-15 that's twice as reliable for $800? Again, that's not the point of something like this. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into a side-by-side spec comparison. Okay, so let's go ahead and start up here with the barrels. Now, both of these are the correct pencil profile barrel, and they are 16 inches. Now, on both of these options, you're going to see the Cetme L 3-prong flash hider with the little slits up here. That was for attaching a grenade launching adapter. Now, these are surplus parts used by both. The Marcolmar variation did come, or I've seen them shipping with a birdcage flash hider. Keep in mind, a birdcage flash hider would also be correct. The 3-prong would have been an early Cetme Model L. The 3-prong would have been a late variation Cetme Model L. Now, in terms of the coloration, the Hill & Mac did go with a flat gray parkerizing, similar to what you see on like a military M16 sort of a coloration, just kind of like a charcoal gray. And on the Marcolmar, it's sort of like a high gloss blue type finish. Now, being very direct, I've not actually ever handled personally a real and authentic complete Cetme Model L in its original military configuration and its military coloration, but I have seen a bunch of pictures, and I have seen videos done by the like of Forgotten Weapons where they have sort of showcased a real firearm, and I looked very closely at the coloration, and I would say that this is more correct of sort of a matte military parkerizing, not so much the high gloss finish, and you typically don't see high gloss finishes on military firearms anyway, just because of the propensity to shine, and you know, you want to sort of dissipate light in any type of reflection on a military small arm. Now, both of these barrels are US made, of course. With the original parts kits, you couldn't get in the completed receiver or the barrel, you know, as of late. So these are going to be US made barrels. Moving up a little bit, getting into the cocking tube area, the front sights, and the handguards. Now, first and foremost, let's start with the handguards. Of course, the Hill & Mac Cetme L, they actually use original military furniture. So this is original furniture from their parts kits, which is a very high impact sort of plastic. The Marcolmar, for whatever reason, they decided to go with a refurbished or a newly manufactured handguard that they make in-house. Now, of course, with that being said, these are going to look very new, whereas on a military, you know, surplus kit, you know, furniture from that aspect, you're going to have some handling marks and dings and things like that right out of the gate. Now, the next thing I notice is coloration and sort of the matte appearance of the handguards themselves. So the Cetme by Hill & Mac does have a little bit of a shinier, glossier look to it, and is a little bit more of a lighter sort of a pea green. It's going to be kind of weird talking about the different palettes of green coloration here, but it is a little bit of a lighter green color. And again, of course, we know that this is original furniture. Now, this on the remanufactured handguard by Marcolmar is more of a flat color and does feel just a little bit rougher in texture. And of course, the coloration is a little bit different. This is sort of a darker, more olive drab type color. And the interesting thing is I see more of a similarity in the color and the handguard on the original and the finish here, and more of a similarity in color on the handguard on the Marcolmar and the finish on the Hill & Mac Cetme. Now, of course, in the design, you do have a weld right here on the cocking tube. Of course, you're going to have that in both cases. The welds done on both are very well done. I mean, the complete finished product in both regards just look like they're well done. I would say that the welds here on the Marcolmar is a little bit smoother, a little bit more of a nice flattened transition here between the upper receiver half and the cocking tube. Down here, it's just a little bit rougher, a little bit grindier here. Now, the charging handles on both are surplus parts, so you might see a little bit of wear. Now, one thing I have noticed is that in the surplus parts used by each manufacturer, I'm wondering if Marcolmar went back and did a little bit of touch-up or refinishing on the small parts, such as the cross pins and things like that, because they tend to look pretty new, whereas the surplus parts used by Hill & Mac, you can see the obvious finish loss and everything like that. And for all intents and purposes too, this HMG is brand new. I did, like I said, send it down to Small Arms Solutions for review, but other than that, it had not been fired, and I only purchased it brand new from Copper Custom, which had this in stock about 3 or 4 months ago. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the receivers. So the first thing I want to point out is the color, and the color is very obviously different between the two. Now, I did see a video done at SHOT Show where a spokesperson from Marcolmar had talked about the coloration briefly, saying that they had a series of parts kits that they were able to use to match the color. I don't know how Hill & Mac went about matching the color on this, but I will say, again, I've never handled a real military Cetme Model L before, but I have looked at a ton of pictures and seen a lot of videos on original fully automatic Cetme Model Ls, and I would say actually the HMG seems to be more correct based on what I've seen. It is a darker shade, more of an olive drab, whereas this is sort of like a peppermint green. It's more of like a light green, and I've just never really seen photos, and of course the pixelation and however that works in photos can come across a little bit different. And I know Marcolmar did say that they used actual color matching from real parts kits on the real colors, so I don't know how much of that is true or not, but this just, based on colors and photos, this just seems to be more correct. Now, the receivers on both were US made, of course, by the respective companies that put these together, and of course all the rolling, the welds and everything by both actually feel very solid. I can't say any one is more rugged or better looking or better put together than the other. They both did a great job. The stampings look the same on both. I mean, you can tell that they just, I mean, they matched very well to the original design. You know, I don't really have a complaint from either. They both did a great job. Now, one thing I will point out that Marcolmar did pay attention to is the original Cetme did have this little shell deflector hood right here around the back of the ejection port, which Marcolmar did include on their receiver design. Here on the Hill & Mac, they did not incorporate that, so it's just smooth here. And what you can see, there is some finish loss from when Chris Bartacci did shoot this, pinging back into the back of the receiver there, which you are going to avoid with the little shell deflector, which would have originally been there on a real Cetme L. The next thing about the receivers I'm going to point out that, again, I think Marcolmar did a really great job on was the roll markings. So very indicative of what the original Spanish, sorry, try not to get some glare there, what the original Spanish roll markings would have looked like in their right placement. The serial number is sort of this white paint look with an L- serial number. That would be correct. The selector numbers, I'm sorry, selector letters there, that would be how that looked. You had the Cetme L markings and caliber designations. Again, that's exactly how they looked in the original. Here on the Hill & Mac, it's sort of like this there's the Hill & Mac logo right there, company information, and it's like almost sort of like a very lightly electro penciled on. Well, it was done by a machine, not by hand. There you have the serial number in the same place, but it's very faint, you can't see it. Selector markings right there in the same place, but they're just kind of etched in. Very shallow, not painted or colored or anything like the original was. You really have to look to see them. Again, overall receiver design, I'm going to give that to Marcolmar. It's just, it looks a lot more authentic to the original. I just wish the coloration were just a little bit darker. Now, a lot of the internals here in the receiver were original surplus parts used by both. Sort of the controls, the sights, the little push pins, the magazine release. The magazines, of course, we can look at those. The magazine well on both of these is going to be very tight. I can't say one is any tighter than the other. Both mags go in, they fit in very tight. Now keep in mind, you do have to use a Stanag type magazine. The P-mags and things like that will not fit, so you need these sort of aluminum body Stanag mags and you'll be fine. Bolts, bolt carriers, trigger packs, trigger groups, and both are original surplus parts, so you do get that there. Now pistol grips and stocks, again, down here, these are original surplus components, and up here on the Marcolmar, these are reproduction made by them. Now, I have several of these in my store, and I am going to be taking one for myself, just because I think the Cetme L is cool, and, you know, the parts kits are going to dry up eventually. I'm sure they will run out at some point. Now, they are, like I said, going to be putting out a lot more of these than Hill & Mac did, so they will probably be on the market for a while. But I want to grab one before they dry up. These will probably be the last kits and the last builds that we will ever see on these, so this will probably be it. Anyway, with that being said, one thing I am going to do is switch out the furniture. Now, on the Marcolmar, they did, per their instruction manual, by the way, if you get one of these, go through the manual. It's actually very detailed and has a lot of history and stuff in it. But they only used 8 imported parts so it will still be 922R compliance. You do have to keep either the handguard, the stock, or the pistol grip as one of these US made parts, but you can switch out 2 of the 3 if you care about that. I know a lot of people are going to say 922R only applies to the manufacturer. That's fine, whatever you want to do. Some people follow it, some people don't, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Well guys, that is all the time I have for you today on these. I just wanted to do that quick sort of head-to-head so you can see the characteristic differences. When it warms up a little bit, I will get both of these out to the range and do a shooting comparison for you so you can see how they match up. Again, I know that this one has has had some malfunctions. This, I wouldn't be surprised if it has sort of the same thing. Again, they're not going to be wholly reliable. Maybe I'll be surprised when I do this. Mosin Crate did do a video on this, and he did have some similar issues, some malfunctions, double feeds and stuff in his first couple magazines with his. Now, of course, that can be attributed to a break-in period, so could this, because when Chris Bartacci shot this, he had only put about 200 rounds through it. So I'll take him out. I will put a lot more rounds through him, get a lot more different ammunition types into him. Maybe within the next couple months, look out for a video on that. But anyway, I'm going to leave you guys with that. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification button. And also, as always, if you have any questions, just leave those down in the comment section and I will be happy to answer as many of those as I can. I will leave you with that. My name is Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV, and I will see you next time.